In 2006, I decided to rent a game for the next few days but had no idea what was available that I hadn't already played, as my primary gaming console was still the PlayStation 2. Walking through the aisle, one game cover caught my eye that I hadn't seen before: Yakuza. I didn't bother reading the back cover and just gave it a shot. To my surprise, Yakuza felt like a 3D side-scroller beat-em-up, featuring a fantastic story and a pretty enjoyable dub. Fast forward over 14 years later, and the Yakuza franchise has become one of my favorite gaming series that until now has been pretty much expanded presentations of the same thing that attracted me to the series in the first place. Like a Dragon looks to take the franchise and its fans out of their comfort zone, thanks to not only focusing on a new protagonist, but also changing the gameplay completely by becoming a traditional turn-based RPG. I was excited to see if one of my favorite developers could provide another incredible experience. Even though Like a Dragon changes its gameplay formula, it isn't lacking in content similar to all of its predecessors, including dozens of sub-stories or side missions, Sega arcade games, and optional fights, including a major tower meant for tackling post-story. Controlling new protagonist Ichiban Kasuga, an eccentric former Yakuza who took the fall for an ally by spending nearly 2 decades in prison before being released into a brand new version of what was once his hometown. Just like the original Yakuza protagonist, the player is given the chance to either experience all that each available town has to offer. After over 100 hours, I completed the main story, as well as all the sub-stories, maxing out several of the available job classes, and preventing Ichiban from falling asleep during all the in-game movies. I do intend on grinding to reach max levels for each of the 7 available characters, so I can tackle the final post-game dungeons, just filled with high-level enemies that can one-hit kill someone too underpowered. A task that could take me another 20 or so hours to complete. Following the events of Yakuza 6 that saw the franchise's main protagonist Kazuma Kiryu literally walk off into the sunset, a new era arrives with Ichiban Kasuga taking the helm as the story's focal character. Originally a loyal member of the Tojo clan's Arakawa family, Kasuga finds himself taking the fall for a higher-ranking member of his crime family who committed murder. When Ichiban is released, he discovers his lack of importance not only in the world he knew, but also in the eyes of his boss, the man he dedicated his life to as a way to repay him for saving the young Ichiban's life years prior. Kasuga makes a huge mistake in hoping to attain his boss's attention, resulting in him being shot and left for dead. Thankfully for Ichiban, he's disposed in an area where someone with the ability to help saves his life, leading to Kasuga aligning with this vagrant Yunamba, before uniting with the likes of an ex-detective Adachi, a fellow employee Seiko, and 3 other characters that are rather spoilerish. Of course, the game doesn't just focus on a bunch of people doing odd jobs around the town, introducing a power struggle rooted in, you guessed it, the criminal organization known as the Yakuza. The stereotypical twists and turns that make all the previous Yakuza games' stories memorable are just as profound here as they were in the older iterations, with a new protagonist that grows from being simply quirky and eccentric into one of the most well-rounded and emotionally driven, though deceptively intelligent characters in the franchise's history. But for all the similar story beats is the drastic change in the combat presentation, with Ichiban accepting his position as the hero of Yokohama. Kasuga also embraces his inner RPG and Dragon Warrior fan. Ichiban's imagination causes each enemy to transform into a monster version of themselves, sporting glowing red eyes, modified outfits, and even turning their perverted nature into actions. The combat in general is very much a traditional turn-based RPG, being able to pull off automated attacks by tapping one button, moving through a streamlined menu to use restorative or damaging items, performing a perfect guard by hitting the cancel or guard button right before an enemy strike lands, and even utilizing summons, known as pound mates, that are attained via various ways, including through main story moments and sub-stories. Summons also cost money to use, and some can only be activated during a particular moment or scenario, like the time of day, or if the player is taking on a human enemy. For anyone who has played a turn-based RPG like Persona 5 will find themselves right at home with this combat experience, including each enemy having certain weaknesses. If the player can figure out what an adversary is weak to, the protagonist can land critical strikes that will knock down an enemy for a potential follow-up. Enemies also present certain interesting challenges, including blocking an incoming normal attack by swatting or kicking away their incoming foe, with similar or high-level enemies stopping the protagonist and lower-level ones being nothing more than annoying gnats that can knock off a couple of hit points, or performing a guard midway through an attack. Every character has a base set of skills and special tag team attacks that are accented by other skills learned by leveling up certain jobs or classes. Not long into the game is the ability to change classes for each playable character. These jobs open up the possibility of certain characters being effective tanks, like Adachi's Enforcer class, to Seiko using her idle job talents to heal party members' HP or cure them of status ailments. Most offensive attacks rely on quick-time events to do extra damage instead of trying to be a revolutionary RPG. Like a Dragon embraces what worked elsewhere in the genre and makes the change in combat mostly feel worthwhile. Unfortunately, there are some issues in regards to combat presentation. Though this is a turn-based RPG, the enemies aren't stationary when the action begins, moving around the environment at any given moment. There will be several times when a player is preparing an attack, such as Adachi battering ramming his way toward an enemy in the back, with the gamer's intent of plowing through a few other nearby adversaries in the process, due to their current positioning. By the time the input is placed and the character initiates the attack, the other non-targeted enemies may have moved far enough away to make the attack mostly useless. There are also collision detection issues, with some environmentals getting in the way, like nearby streetlights or a desk when fighting inside a building, that can turn a potential attack into an unsuccessful strike. This too can happen with the player's own characters if they are in the wrong spot at a crucial time. High-level grinding is also a big issue. Late in the game, major story enemies get a rather large boost in regards to level and power, meaning the player will have to enter the designated monotonous dungeons or a battle arena to level up their character and their jobs, something that becomes a necessity instead of an option. Random enemy groups the player will encounter when moving through each map have a set level depending on the chapter the story is in, meaning as the character's levels progress, the less reason to fight some random street punks or a guy wrapped in a trash bag. Also, if Ichiban falls in battle, it's game over. With Yokohama being the new primary setting comes the addition of many extra things to take part in, including the returning sub-stories, the franchise's emotional, quirky, and at times absolutely insane side missions, such as helping an elderly woman cross the street by feeding her the hottest food ever, and the return of everyone's favorite child like Yakuza. Pocket Circuit Fighter, first introduced in Yakuza 0, returns here to present the game's version of Mario Kart, the mostly enjoyable Dragon Kart. Dragon Kart provides not only incredible races, especially the ones connected to sub-stories, but also coins that can be used to purchase items both beneficial like weapons and inessential such as CDs for karaoke sessions. Ichiban can pick up cans to earn extra cash, with the intent of buying that long-wanted broken television set that obviously can't be used to watch something, but will be beneficial in completing the part-time hero completion list. A group of in-game achievements that range from slaughtering a number of particular enemies to completing an entire arcade ladder in Virtua Fighter 5. Fully playable arcade versions of games like the aforementioned Virtua Fighter 5 and UFO Catchers return, as well as the various eateries that allow for temporary battle boosts, like higher attack power or attaining more money after a battle. And then there's the business management mode. In an effort to save a local business from going under, Ichiban figuratively puts on his boss hat to scout businesses via the mode's menu, hire employees that can be also obtained by going around the town, and attempt to appease angry shareholders via a minigame built off the rock, paper, scissors style action seen in other Yakuza minigames. Ichiban also has 6 traits that increase during certain moments, like sitting down at the Survive bar to talk with his teammates, or taking in-game certification classes, featuring randomized trivia sequences that can really be head-scratchers. These upgradable traits can help Ichiban influence potential business employees to give Ichiban Holdings a chance in the business management mode. Though business management mode doesn't feel as extravagant as the hostess bar management mode, like in Yakuza 6 or even Fist of the North Star, and isn't as monotonous as the original version seen in Yakuza 0, it's still a rather entertaining side activity that can grant the player a lot of money early on if someone invests the hours, beyond a few technical issues like the aforementioned collision detection, and not the wisest decisions in regards to late game grinding. Like a Dragon takes a chance without losing the heart and soul of what makes Yakuza games so much fun, including harrowing battles, a hearty story, and a group of heroes that are easy to support. Though Like a Dragon is unlike any other game in the franchise from a gameplay perspective, so much of it is so familiar because it doesn't attempt to rock the boat in regards to presenting a turn-based RPG. Longtime Yakuza fans may be slightly turned off by the gameplay change, but considering how much the story is so similar to its predecessors in the best way possible, and all the extra stuff there is to do in the world of Like a Dragon, it's hard to deny this as a must-play experience. Do yourself a favor and buy this game as soon as possible to truly embrace your inner hero.
こんなもんかよ。もっと来いや。ナンバさっちゃん。よくも俺の仲間を。大臣の一撃。よっしゃー。てれててててて。